Imagine having the ability to face life's toughest challenges with unwavering calm and confidence. Sounds empowering, doesn't it? In today's chaotic world, stress, setbacks, and uncertainties seem to be around every corner. Yet, as the Buddha once said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. This timeless wisdom holds the key to building mental strength, turning struggles into stepping stones for growth. In this video, we explore transformative strategies rooted in Buddhist teachings to train your mind to overcome anything life throws your way. Whether you're navigating through personal hurdles, career challenges, or emotional battles, these insights will help you unlock the full potential of your mind. Let's begin. So, let's talk about this idea of an anti-fragile mindset. Sounds a bit like something out of a superhero movie, right? But it's actually a pretty grounded concept, and it's all about how we handle stress, challenges, and setbacks in life. First off, we need to understand what it really means to be anti-fragile. We're familiar with fragile things, like glass, right? If you drop it, it shatters. Simple. But here's where it gets interesting. Anti-fragility means that something actually gets stronger when it faces stress or challenges. It's not just about surviving difficult situations, it's about thriving in them. Now, picture your mindset like a plant. Some plants, when you expose them to a little stress, like wind or a bit of drought, they grow deeper roots. They adapt and get stronger. That's what we want for our minds. When life throws us a curveball, we don't break down, we grow. But how do we actually cultivate this mindset in our own lives? It's not like you just wake up one day and suddenly have it. It takes practice, and it's about changing the way we see obstacles. Step 1. Embrace challenges as opportunities. Think about the last time something tough happened in your life. Maybe you lost a job, had a tough breakup, or something didn't go as planned. Instead of letting those situations knock you down, see them as opportunities for growth. That's key. Every challenge, no matter how bad it seems, is a chance to learn and become more resilient. So, next time something difficult happens, try to ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow stronger from it? Step 2. Practice getting comfortable with discomfort. Let's be real. Most of us avoid discomfort, right? We want things to be smooth, comfortable, and easy. But guess what? That's not where growth happens. Growth happens when we step outside of our comfort zones. That's when the magic happens. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should put yourself in risky, crazy situations for the sake of it. But little by little, push yourself to try new things, challenge your routine, or even tackle a small fear. The more we expose ourselves to discomfort, the more we build that anti-fragile muscle in our minds. Step 3. Shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. This one is huge. People with a fixed mindset believe their abilities are set in stone. So, if something's hard for them, they think they just can't do it. But people with a growth mindset know that skills can be developed over time. So, when they face challenges, they think, okay, I don't know how to do this yet, but I can learn. It's about shifting from, I can't do this, to, I can't do this yet. That little word, yet, changes everything. It means that even if things are tough now, you're on your way to mastering them. Step 4. Be okay with uncertainty. One thing about life that's guaranteed is uncertainty. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and that can be scary. But here's the kicker. Anti-fragile people are okay with that. They don't need to control everything. Instead, they learn to navigate uncertainty, and the more we embrace uncertainty, throw them off, the more adaptable and resilient we become. So, practice being okay with not having all the answers. Take it one step at a time, and trust that you'll figure it out as you go. Step 5. Reframe failure as feedback. Let's be honest, failure sucks, but it's also a huge part of growing stronger. Anti-fragile people don't see failure as the end. They see it as feedback. It's like getting a score on a test. You didn't get everything right, but now you know what to work on. The key is to detach from the emotional weight of failure. Instead of beating yourself up when things don't go as planned, ask, what can I take from this to improve next time? If we can learn to see failure as a chance to fine-tune our approach, then we're one step closer to becoming truly anti-fragile. All right, so here's the summary. An anti-fragile mindset is all about getting stronger through life's challenges, discomforts, and even failures. By embracing challenges, getting comfortable with uncertainty, and shifting how we view setbacks, we can transform the way we respond to difficulties. Instead of being fragile, we become resilient, able to bend without breaking, and even come out the other side stronger than before. And the cool thing is, you don't need to be perfect at this from the start. Just remember, small steps every day will lead to big changes over time. So, how are you going to cultivate your anti-fragile mindset today? Now, let's talk about something that might sound a little counterintuitive, but is incredibly powerful. Psychological distancing. At first, you might think, wait, isn't this about connecting with people and being mindful of your thoughts? Why would I want to distance myself? But hear me out. Psychological distancing is a technique where you create a bit of emotional space between yourself and the situation that's causing stress. Instead of getting wrapped up in all the negativity, you step back and view it from a more neutral perspective. Imagine this. You're in a heated argument with a friend, or maybe you're just feeling overwhelmed by a big project at work. Instead of diving headfirst into the emotional whirlpool, try to imagine that you're watching the situation unfold from a distance, like you're observing a scene in a movie. When you create that mental distance, it's like you're putting the situation on pause for a moment, taking a step back and saying, okay, let's look at this with a little more perspective. Suddenly, the intensity fades, and you can breathe. You're no longer consumed by the rush of emotions. Here's a simple exercise you can try. When you're feeling overwhelmed, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and imagine yourself as an observer of the situation, like you're watching a movie about someone else going through exactly what you're experiencing. How would you advise that person? What would you say to them? This little shift in perspective gives you the space to think more clearly and act more rationally. Psychological distancing is powerful because it allows you to detach from the immediate emotional triggers and look at the bigger picture. It's not about suppressing emotions, far from it. It's about giving yourself permission to process your feelings without letting them control you. In practice, this can look like telling yourself things like, "This is tough, but it's temporary." Yes, I feel frustrated right now, but that doesn't define who I am. I can choose how to respond to this situation, and I don't have to react immediately. The beauty of this is that you can apply it not just to external situations, but also to your inner thoughts. When you start feeling anxious or overly critical of yourself, create some space between the thought and your emotional reaction. You are not your thoughts. They are just thoughts, and you can observe them, not be consumed by them. By mastering psychological distancing, you're giving yourself the gift of emotional control. It's like having a mental pause button that allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than reacting impulsively. This practice doesn't make the problems go away, but it makes them easier to manage. It helps you step into your power, calm your mind, and make better choices. Give it a try next time you feel yourself spiraling. Instead of getting lost in the chaos, take a step back, breathe, and observe. You'll be amazed at how much clearer things become when you're looking at them from a distance. All right, let's dive into this idea of building cognitive endurance through discomfort training. Now, this might sound a little intense, but stick with me here. It's actually pretty fascinating. So, let's imagine this. You're at the gym, right? And you're doing a really tough workout. Your muscles are burning. You're starting to feel that urge to quit, but there's something inside you that pushes you to keep going. What's happening there is simple. You're training your body to handle discomfort. You're building physical endurance. Now, here's the thing. Your brain works the same way. Your mind can be trained to endure discomfort too. It's all about cognitive endurance, which is basically your ability to stay focused, think clearly, and make smart decisions even when you're feeling stressed, tired, or overwhelmed. Just like physical endurance, cognitive endurance takes practice, and one of the most effective ways to build it is through discomfort training. Now, what exactly is discomfort training? Simply put, it's about intentionally putting yourself in situations where you're uncomfortable, not in a harmful way, but in a way that challenges your mental capacity. Think of it like exposing yourself to small doses of mental stress so that, over time, your brain becomes stronger and more resilient. For example, let's say you're working on a difficult project at work or school. You could choose to take frequent breaks, ease off when things get tough, and avoid the discomfort. But instead, what if you embraced that discomfort? What if, instead of stepping away when you hit a mental roadblock, you pushed through, even if it's just for a few minutes longer than usual? That's discomfort training at work. Another example could be something as simple as delaying gratification. We all love instant rewards, right? But here's the challenge. Try going without your usual comforts for a bit. Maybe that means holding off on checking your phone or resisting the urge to multitask while you're working. This is one of the hardest things to do in our hyper-connected world, but it builds cognitive endurance by helping you strengthen your focus and patience. Discomfort training is also about training your brain to handle frustration. Instead of running away from frustration or avoiding tasks that make you feel uneasy, you practice sitting with that discomfort. You let it be a part of the process. Over time, your brain gets used to this discomfort and begins to handle it with more ease. This doesn't mean you'll never feel stressed or frustrated again, but it does mean you'll be better equipped to manage those emotions. Here's where the cool part comes in. You're not just building mental toughness, you're actually rewiring your brain. This process encourages your brain to develop more neural pathways that make it easier to handle stress, focus on tasks for longer periods, and adapt to challenging situations. It's like giving your brain its own version of a six-pack. Now, how do you implement this? Start small. Try pushing yourself just a little bit more each day. If you usually give up when a task starts to feel too hard, challenge yourself to push through for 5 more minutes. If you typically give in to distractions, practice resisting them for a little longer. This might feel uncomfortable at first, and that's the point. You're training your brain to handle discomfort, and every time you do it, you're building more cognitive endurance. The next time you're faced with a challenging task, remind yourself, This is discomfort training in action. The more you embrace it, the more you'll grow. You won't just survive stress, you'll become better at dealing with it. To wrap up, remember, cognitive endurance is like a muscle. It gets stronger the more you challenge it. By incorporating discomfort training into your daily routine, you'll be preparing yourself for whatever life throws at you. It's all about training your mind to keep going, even when the going gets tough. All right, let's talk about something that we all struggle with at times: negativity. You know those days when nothing seems to go right, and it feels like negativity is just pouring in from every angle. Whether it's negative thoughts in our own head or external situations that bring us down, negativity can easily take root in our lives. But here's the thing: we don't have to let it control us. Now, imagine your mind as a fortress, a strong, impenetrable castle with towering walls. When negativity comes knocking, you don't just open the gates and let it stroll right in. No, you've got your mental fortress built up, and you make sure to guard it well. So, how do we start building this fortress? Step 1. Recognize the intruder. The first step is to recognize when negativity starts to creep in. A lot of times, we don't even notice it because we get so caught up in the moment. But if you stop for a second and take a step back, you can often catch the negative thoughts as they start. It's like spotting an enemy before they breach your walls. Whether it's self-doubt, anger, or frustration, acknowledge it. Don't push it aside or ignore it. Understanding it is the first step to taking control. Step 2. Reframe the situation. Now that you've spotted the negativity, here's the next step. Reframe it. Instead of letting those negative thoughts drag you down, try to change your perspective. For example, if you're feeling overwhelmed at work, instead of thinking, "I can't do this," try telling yourself, "This is challenging, but I am capable of handling it." It's about seeing the situation for what it is, but choosing to respond in a way that strengthens your mental fortress instead of weakening it. Step 3. Practice gratitude. The beauty of gratitude is that it acts like a shield against negativity. When you focus on what you're grateful for, whether it's the support of friends, your health, or the simple joy of a warm cup of coffee, you shift your energy from negative to positive. The more you practice gratitude, the stronger your mental fortress becomes, because it helps to crowd out the negativity. It's like reinforcing the walls of your fortress with solid stone. Step 4. Control your environment. Your environment plays a huge role in your mindset. Think of it like the space outside your fortress. Are there people or situations constantly trying to tear down your walls? If so, it might be time to take a step back and evaluate where you're spending your time and energy. Surround yourself with positive influences, people who lift you up, places that inspire you, and activities that recharge your spirit. The more positive energy you let into your life, the stronger and more resilient your fortress becomes. Step 5. Practice mindfulness. Finally, mindfulness is like the moat around your fortress. It keeps you grounded in the present moment, so you don't get swept away by the current of negativity. When you're mindful, you can watch your thoughts from a distance without getting caught up in them. You realize that thoughts, whether good or bad, are just thoughts. They don't define you, and they don't have to control you. Through meditation, deep breathing, or simply paying attention to the world around you, mindfulness helps you stay anchored, no matter how stormy the world outside your mental fortress may get. So, when negativity comes knocking, whether it's in the form of self-doubt, anger, or external challenges, don't let it inside. Recognize it, reframe it, practice gratitude, control your environment, and stay mindful. Build that mental fortress, and remember, you are the guardian of your own mind. You have the power to protect it, strengthen it, and keep it safe from negativity. Keep building that fortress one day at a time, and watch how it transforms the way you face the world. Stay strong, and keep those walls high. Hey there, welcome. Today, we're going to dive into something that's not just deep, but incredibly powerful. Transforming pain into power. Sounds impossible, right? But trust me, it's not only possible, it's something that's been done throughout history, and yes, can be done by you. So, how do we do that? It all starts with something I like to call emotional alchemy. No, it's not about magic wands or mysterious potions. It's a real, tangible process that you can practice to change the way you handle emotional pain and use it to fuel something greater in your life. Let's break it down. When we talk about alchemy, we're referring to the ancient practice of transforming base metals into gold. Now, think of your painful emotions as base metals: anger, sadness, grief, or fear. Emotional alchemy is about taking these difficult emotions and transforming them into something valuable, like power, wisdom, strength, and clarity. But here's the catch. It's not about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's not about burying it or ignoring it. It's about acknowledging it, understanding it, and then, with a bit of inner work, turning it into something that empowers you. Before we can do anything with our pain, we first need to become aware of it. This might sound like a no-brainer, but how often do we just push our emotions aside? We get busy, we distract ourselves, and before we know it, we've shoved our emotions into a little box in the back of our minds. But here's the truth. You can't transform what you don't acknowledge. So, the first step in emotional alchemy is to stop, breathe, and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Is it sadness, frustration, or maybe a deep sense of loss? The key is to name the emotion. You don't have to do anything with it yet, but the moment you identify it, you give yourself the space to feel it. Now comes the tricky part. Most people try to resist pain. We either run from it, numb it out, or lash out at others because of it. But to truly transform it, you need to sit with it. Imagine you're holding a heavy rock. It's sharp, uncomfortable, and kind of painful. But what if, instead of holding it in a death grip, you just sat with it, feeling its weight and texture without judgment? That's the essence of emotional alchemy. Let yourself feel that pain, not as a curse, but as a signal, a message from your deeper self. What is this pain trying to teach me? What is it telling me about my needs, my boundaries, my desires? This brings us to one of the most powerful shifts you can make. Instead of seeing your pain as something you have to get rid of, start viewing it as a teacher. Pain doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's always telling us something valuable. When you start asking, what can I learn from this? You take the power back from the pain. Let's say you're going through a breakup. It hurts, it sucks. But if you can ask yourself, what have I learned about love? What have I learned about myself? You open the door to healing. You can see that pain as a stepping stone to self-discovery, to personal growth, and ultimately, to a more powerful version of you. Okay, so now you've acknowledged the pain, you've felt it, and you've learned from it. But here's the next crucial step: letting go of your attachment to it. Sometimes we get so attached to our pain because it's familiar. It feels like part of who we are. But holding on to pain out of habit doesn't serve us. One of the most profound ways to transform pain into power is by learning the art of release. It's like cleaning out a closet. You've learned everything you needed to from that old jacket or those dusty books, but it's time to let them go. When you release the pain, you create space for something new, for healing, for growth. This doesn't mean forgetting the experience or pretending it didn't matter. It simply means you stop letting it control you. Now, here's where the magic happens. Once you've cleared that space, you can start to fill it with positive energy, the power you've gained through emotional alchemy. I'm talking about power that's rooted in wisdom. Power that comes from understanding yourself and the world better because you've been through something difficult. This is the power of emotional resilience. It's the ability to bounce back stronger after life throws you a curveball. It's the inner strength that comes from being able to say, "I've been hurt, but that doesn't define me. I choose to rise." This power isn't about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about owning your story and knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you have the tools to transform it into something better. Remember, emotional alchemy isn't a one-time fix. It's a practice. Every time you encounter pain, you can choose to transform it. You can choose to learn from it, release it, and rise stronger than before. So, I challenge you. The next time you're hit with a painful moment, instead of running away or drowning in it, sit with it. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I transform this pain into power? And I promise you, every step you take in this direction will bring you closer to a version of yourself that is unstoppable. A version that uses pain as fuel and transforms it into pure power. Thanks for tuning in today. If this resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content on emotional growth and transformation. You've got this. Take care. All right, let's dive into something really powerful today. The concept of rewiring your brain using intentional thought loops. Now, don't let the term thought loops scare you off. This isn't some complex psychological jargon. It's actually a simple but effective technique to change the way you think, feel, and react on a daily basis. So, what's a thought loop, and why is it so important? Think of it like this. Your brain is a superhighway of information, and every time you think a thought, you're taking a car down a specific road. If you keep driving down the same road over and over, you start to create a rut. That's a thought loop. Some of these loops are positive, like when you tell yourself, "I'm capable," and you feel more confident. But others, like when you think, "I'm not good enough," or "I always mess things up," can get stuck in a negative feedback loop, reinforcing those feelings and limiting beliefs. But here's the cool part. You can take control and change those loops. You can rewire your brain by intentionally creating new thought loops. This isn't about just thinking positive, which, let's be real, is often easier said than done. It's about being mindful and intentional about the thoughts you choose to repeat. Here's how you can start doing it. 1. Become aware of your current loops. Before you can change anything, you have to know what you're working with. Take a moment and think about your usual thought patterns. What do you tell yourself on a regular basis? Are they empowering thoughts, or are they limiting beliefs? Maybe you often think, "I'm too old for this," or "I'll never be successful." Those are examples of negative thought loops that don't serve you. 2. Challenge those thoughts. Now that you know what your negative loops are, start challenging them. Ask yourself, is this thought actually true? Or, what evidence do I have that proves this thought wrong? Often, you'll find that these negative loops are based on assumptions or past experiences, not facts. For instance, you might think, "I'll never lose weight because you've tried and failed in the past." But, if you think about it, those past experiences don't define your future. You can rewrite that loop to something like, "I have the power to make healthier choices today." 3. Replace the negative loop with a new, empowering one. Now that you've challenged your old loops, it's time to install a new one. This is where the real magic happens. Instead of letting your brain default to that negative thought, replace it with something empowering. It could be as simple as, "I am worthy of success," or "I am capable of learning and growing." These positive loops might feel a bit awkward at first, but with time, they'll start to feel more natural. 4. Repetition is key. Here's where a lot of people get stuck. Changing your thought loops takes repetition. Just like when you're learning a new habit, it won't happen overnight. The more you consciously repeat the new thought loop, the more your brain will start to believe it. Over time, the new loop will become stronger than the old one, and you'll find yourself feeling more confident, more positive, and more in control. 5. Create a daily practice. One of the most effective ways to rewire your brain is to set aside time each day to focus on your new thought loops. Maybe this is during meditation, while you're getting ready in the morning, or even while you're taking a walk. Repeating these new loops in moments of calm allows them to sink deeper into your subconscious. The more you practice, the more your brain will naturally gravitate towards these empowering thoughts. 6. Visualize the new you. Visualization is a great tool to accelerate this process. Imagine yourself living the life you want. Picture yourself succeeding in your goals, feeling confident, and handling challenges with ease. This helps to lock in those new thought loops and reinforces the neural pathways you're creating. 7. Be patient and compassionate with yourself. Changing thought patterns isn't a race, it's a process. So, be patient with yourself as you rewire your brain. If you catch yourself slipping back into old loops, that's okay. Simply notice it, and gently bring your focus back to the new, empowering loop. Every time you choose the new thought over the old one, you're strengthening that new neural connection. In a nutshell, rewiring your brain with intentional thought loops is like upgrading your mental software. By consciously creating positive thought loops and repeating them consistently, you can change the way you see yourself and the world. This process might take time, but with regular practice, you'll notice your thoughts becoming more supportive, more optimistic, and ultimately, more empowering. You've got this. Your brain is more than capable of change. All right, let's talk about something that sounds a little intense but is super powerful when you really think about it. Radical acceptance. This is all about fully accepting your life as it is right now, exactly as it is. No sugarcoating, no resisting. And I get it. Sometimes, life feels like it's throwing us curveballs left and right. Things don't go as planned, or we end up stuck in situations we'd rather not be in. The temptation is to fight it, right? But here's the kicker. Fighting doesn't usually make it better. In fact, it can make it worse. Radical acceptance is not about giving up. It's not about saying, "Oh, well, guess that's just how it is," in a defeatist way. No, it's about stopping the struggle. It's about acknowledging that, yeah, things might suck right now, but instead of pretending like they're not happening or wishing they weren't, you just let them be. You accept it without judgment. And trust me, this doesn't mean you approve of everything that happens. It just means you stop fighting the fact that it's happening. Think about it like this. When we resist something, like feeling angry or sad or scared, it's like we're holding our breath. We're clenching, we're tightening up, and it's exhausting. But when we embrace radical acceptance, we let go. We acknowledge that these feelings, these situations, they're part of the process of being human. They're not something to get rid of. They're just there, and we don't need to hold on to them any longer than necessary. And here's the kicker. Once we stop fighting, we create space. Space to breathe. Space to choose how we respond. Space to move forward. It's like we're no longer weighed down by our own resistance. We free ourselves by just saying, okay, this is where I'm at. What now? I know it sounds simple, but radical acceptance is actually a game changer. It can bring so much peace because when you stop struggling with reality, you start to see things as they truly are, not as you wish they would be. And from there, you can start making real change. All right, imagine you're facing a decision. Could be anything, really. You're standing at a crossroads and both paths look kind of daunting. You could spend hours overthinking, stressing about the right choice, or, you could just stop for a moment and ask yourself, what's the next best move? Here's the beauty of this approach. It cuts through the noise. You don't need to have the entire road mapped out, all the way to the horizon. That's often too much pressure anyway. Instead, focus on the next step. What's the action you can take that feels like the right thing to do in the here and now? Think about it like playing chess. You might not know the final checkmate yet, but every good player knows that to get there, they need to make the next best move. Not necessarily the perfect move. It's a game of progression, not perfection. And that's a key shift in mindset. Let's say you're in a jam at work. You've got a million things on your plate, and everything feels urgent. Instead of spiraling into overwhelm, pause. Ask yourself, what's the next most important thing I need to do right now? What's the one task that'll move things forward? This doesn't mean you ignore the bigger picture, by the way. It's just about breaking things down into smaller, digestible chunks. Each next best move is like a building block, bringing you closer to the overall goal. It's less about waiting for a lightning bolt of inspiration and more about making steady progress, step by step. It's a bit like how you might clean a messy room. Instead of getting bogged down by how much is left to do, you could just start with one corner, one task. Maybe it's putting your shoes away, folding the laundry, or just clearing a tiny section of the desk. Once you take that step, the next one is easier. And soon enough, you'll realize the whole room is looking a lot better. Hey, everyone. Today, let's talk about a powerful concept that's often overlooked in our fast-paced, always connected world: strategic isolation. Yeah, I know, sounds a bit dramatic, right? But trust me, it's actually one of the most effective ways to train your mind and improve your mental well-being. We live in an era where distractions are everywhere. Notifications, emails, social media, you name it. It's hard to find a moment of peace. And while it's great to be connected, there's a downside to always being on. It's like trying to meditate with a constant buzz in your ear. Your mind is never fully present, and that's exhausting. So, what is strategic isolation exactly? It's not about cutting yourself off from the world entirely or retreating into a cave. Instead, it's about intentionally creating moments where you're disconnected from external influences to focus on yourself. You could think of it as a mental workout. Imagine this. You're in a room, maybe with no distractions, No phone, no emails, no TV. You're just there. Sounds simple, right? But the real magic happens when you choose this isolation with intention. It gives your brain space to breathe, reflect, and process. It's like giving your mind a mini vacation from the chaos outside. Why should you do this? Well, first off, strategic isolation is an incredibly effective way to improve focus. When you remove the distractions, you can give your full attention to whatever you're working on, whether that's a project, a hobby, or even just quiet contemplation. And let's be honest, how often do we actually sit down without being distracted by our phones or the next notification? Beyond focus, strategic isolation is a tool for building resilience. It's about creating a space where you can confront your thoughts head-on. Without external noise, you'll notice what comes up, whether it's worries, ideas, or emotions that you've been suppressing. The cool thing is that by sitting with these thoughts, you can begin to challenge them. Let go of the ones that don't serve you, and nurture the ones that lead to growth. Take a moment to think about the last time you had an uninterrupted block of time to yourself. I mean, really, just yourself. What happened? How did you feel? Chances are, it might have been a bit uncomfortable at first. We're not used to that kind of silence anymore, right? But once you get past that initial discomfort, you'll find that your mind starts to quiet down, and clarity begins to emerge. Strategic isolation isn't just for work or productivity, though. It's also essential for mental well-being. When you're constantly around people or surrounded by noise, it's easy to lose touch with your own needs. Strategic isolation allows you to reconnect with yourself, whether that's through meditation, journaling, or simply being alone with your thoughts. It's in these moments that we tend to hear our inner voice more clearly, and that can guide us toward better decisions in life. So, how do you do this? Start small. Maybe it's just an hour a day where you sit in a quiet room, go for a walk without your phone, or even set aside time to read without distractions. If you're feeling more adventurous, try a weekend getaway to a place with minimal distractions. Maybe a cabin in the woods, or a small Airbnb in a quiet town. But it's not just about being alone in the physical sense. It's about being alone with your thoughts. You don't need to go on a long retreat or do anything extreme. Just setting boundaries for yourself and saying, hey, for this next hour, I'm going to be in my own space, mentally and physically. And here's the key. Don't feel pressured to do something with that time. It's not about productivity. It's about the experience of being alone and giving your mind room to wander. Sometimes, it's just about letting your thoughts float and seeing where they take you. And when you're done, you'll likely feel refreshed and mentally clearer. It's like pressing a reset button for your brain. Why does it work? Well, think of it like exercise. Just as we lift weights to build physical strength, we need to train our minds to be strong too. Strategic isolation is a mental exercise that strengthens your ability to focus, reflect, and process. It's about giving your brain a chance to reset and recharge so it can operate at its best. Now, I'm not saying you should isolate yourself from the world all the time. That's not healthy either. Social connections are important, and we all need that human interaction. But having controlled moments of isolation is the balance we need to keep our minds sharp and our emotional health in check. In a world that's constantly pulling us in 100 different directions, strategic isolation offers a chance to pause, reflect, and train our minds to focus on what truly matters. So, next time you feel overwhelmed, take a step back. Create some space. Give your mind the solitude it needs to grow and recharge. Life is full of challenges, right? And let's be honest, sometimes it can feel like you're constantly fighting battles, whether it's with work, relationships, or even with yourself. But here's the thing. What if you could approach these challenges like a warrior? Now, when we think of warriors, we often imagine fierce fighters, sword in hand, ready to face any enemy head-on. But in the Buddhist context, a warrior isn't necessarily someone who fights with physical strength. No, the true warrior is someone who knows how to navigate life's difficulties with wisdom, patience, and unwavering focus. The warrior's perspective on challenges is about seeing obstacles not as things to avoid or fear, but as opportunities for growth. Instead of dreading a challenge, imagine approaching it like a warrior would face a battlefield, not with panic, but with preparation. This perspective comes from understanding that life's difficulties aren't random. They're not a cosmic punishment. They're a chance to learn, to build resilience, and to strengthen your spirit. Just like how a warrior sharpens their sword before a battle, every hardship in life sharpens your inner strength. Think of a warrior in training. They face hardships in order to improve their skills. In the same way, challenges in your life aren't there to break you. They're there to build you. And it's about training yourself to respond rather than react. A warrior doesn't let fear dictate their actions. They face adversity with a calm, focused mind. That's where the real strength lies. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. Heck, it's never easy to face a tough situation, but think of the warrior's mindset. They don't back down just because it's hard. They step forward. They move with purpose, grounded in the belief that each challenge is another step toward their ultimate growth. So, the next time you're facing something difficult, whether it's a tough conversation, a work project, or something more personal, ask yourself, how would a warrior approach this? They wouldn't let fear paralyze them, and neither should you. They would face it with courage, knowing that through this challenge they become stronger. In Buddhism, there's a powerful lesson about right effort. This idea of not forcing things but knowing when to push and when to rest. The warrior knows that each battle is part of the journey, but it's the inner effort, the mental and emotional training that determines the outcome. They might fall down, but they get back up, and with each fall they rise stronger. This mindset isn't just about fighting for the sake of fighting. It's about fighting for your peace, for your clarity, for your path in life. Every challenge you face, whether big or small, can teach you something valuable. And the warrior? They embrace that lesson. When you begin to look at life's challenges from the warrior's perspective, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances. Instead, you start seeing yourself as someone who's equipped to deal with whatever life throws at you. It's like the old saying goes, the obstacle is the way. The challenges, the struggles, those are the things that shape us. They reveal our true potential. So, here's your call to action. The next time you're faced with a tough situation, take a deep breath, stand tall, and think of yourself as a warrior. You don't need to fight with anger or frustration. Fight with awareness, with understanding, and with the confidence that you can handle whatever comes your way. Because you can. Every warrior is forged in the heat of battle. And just like that warrior, you are stronger than you think.